Hi, everyone, and welcome to Home Tech. I'm Seth Johnson, and this week joined by Jason Griffin. Jason, how you doing, man?
I'm good. I'm back. I've got network.
You got internet.
Yeah.
You're not in the bed. What is it? Airbnb. Yeah, with no Wi-Fi. How did they manage to put that online?
I think it may be a first for Airbnb. I don't have that scientifically proven, but can't be good for business.
Needless to say, it didn't have smart locks or anything cool you could talk about.
It sure didn't. No. It had some hot water, a roof, some beds.
There you go.
A kitchen. The basics, Seth. The basics. We were the first. It turns out the first guests to stay at this Airbnb, and it is not actually someone's home, but it's like one of these. There's people out there now who professionally manage like a bunch of them, and you could tell they had just renovated it. The paint was fresh. You could smell it on the walls. So it was we were christening the place, and we were told coming into it, of course, that it would have Wi-Fi. They even sent us the network name and password, but somehow
what a cruel joke.
It didn't even have a router. My buddy Alex, who was staying there with me, literally turned the place upside down looking for a router, and no dice. So
no Wi-Fi. This is the Wi-Fi signal's just horrible here.
Yeah. So anyways, happy to be back, and not a minute too soon. Holy cow. Busy week in home technology. So actually fortunate, Seth, that just you and me today. We don't have a guest lined up, and we're going to get caught up on a whole bunch of news from Sonos, Google, Ring, ADT. Really, really busy week. So I look forward to diving into that. Really, really quickly here, why don't we do this before we go any further? We want to send a big thank you out like we normally do to our patrons of the show. If you're interested in learning how you can support our efforts here at the Home Tech Podcast, you can head on over to HomeTech.fm/support. Once again, that's HomeTech.fm/support. And that's where you can learn a little bit about our Patreon program, which is a way that you can support our efforts here for as little as $1 a month. We've had a bunch of people do that. We really, really appreciate it. And we've got a number of them in the chat room with us tonight. Want to also mention, like I usually do, Seth, that even at that $1 a month level, we will send a invite over to our private Slack channel, The Hub. And that's a really great community. Really a lot of fun, a lot of great conversation going on in there on a daily basis. So we'd highly encourage you to go check that out. So one last time, that's HomeTech.fm/support.
Absolutely. And I'd like to thank everybody who's also participating. You don't have to be a big supporter of the show and be a patron of the show to actually listen. Have feedback here with us live on the air. We have a little IRC channel set up, and if you go to HomeTech.fm/live while we're recording, you kind of have to watch Twitter because our times do change from time to time. From week to week, really. We try and aim for the Wednesday around between 7 and 7:30 Eastern during every week. But sometimes, things come up, we get delayed. If we have an interview, it lasts a little bit longer. So if you got nothing to do on Wednesday nights and you just want to sit around and keep an eye on our Twitter feed, we generally do announce it on the Twitter when we're live. So keep an eye on that, and and drop into the chat room, say hi. We definitely helps to get that feedback from everybody who is listening and playing around there in the chat room. It makes for a lot of fun for me, but I know it makes for a better show when we get some live feedback coming in. So we do appreciate that too.
Yeah, definitely. Well, let's jump in here, Seth. We want to start out with a picture of the week, and this one, as they all are, hand chosen by you, and but a really relevant one to you. I know this has been a battle cry for you for a long time. We've been doing this show for, I can hardly believe, come the new year, we'll be coming up on 4 years. And so little over 3.5 years, Seth, you have been adamantly asking for AirPlay on your Sonos system, and it looks like you may finally be in luck. So good choice on the picture of the week.
Yeah. So this is from the Sonos keynote today. Earlier this morning, they announced that finally Sonos will be getting AirPlay 2 sometime in 2018 with hopefully just a software update. I don't think they're going to need anything else, but AirPlay has been one of my longtime issues with Sonos. I think it's a great system, a great platform, but they've been missing some really key features, and AirPlay was always one of them. I can't say how. And after there's a little article that I wrote up for when Apple Music first came out and it wasn't integrated with Sonos. I wrote up how to like run a Node.js program on your computer and get AirPlay attached to Sonos. And after playing around with that for a little bit, I could see why Sonos didn't implement AirPlay, at least the way AirPlay was, because it didn't support having multiple rooms and multiple zones and that kind of thing very well. It was kind of kludgy, and I can understand why Sonos did it, but I really wish they gave us at least the option. It would have been nice to add that, add AirPlay as a service in and use it that way without too many headaches. But man, AirPlay 2, that we don't even know what this looks like yet, but from what we know, from what Apple has shown off and what other people are saying, I mean, AirPlay 2 has the multi-room audio stuff built in and integrations with Siri as well. So this could be huge for Sonos. Even bigger, they had a bunch of big announcements today, but this could be a pretty big thing for them to do. So I'm excited about this. Can't wait to see what it looks like. 2018 can't get here soon enough.
Yeah. I know it's been a long time in the making for you, Seth. I don't know what you're going to complain about now.
I'll find something.
When it comes to Sonos, you'll find something. I'm sure.
Yeah, I mean, they'll. Well, they did a bunch today. I mean, I guess we better jump into that because they announced a ton of stuff today. Integrations with Amazon Alexa, the platform. They introduced a new Sonos One speaker with a 6 microphone array on top of it. It's basically what you know to be the Play One, mixed with an Echo Dot, like slapped on top of it. So if you look at it, there's a little a microphone array around the top. And that gives Sonos the ability to integrate with everything that Amazon Alexa can do. And at $199, it comes out to be a pretty good thing. We've seen rumors of this over the last couple of weeks, and finally it's here. Looks like it's going to be a good one.
Yeah, no, it's exciting news for Sonos fans. We have been hearing a lot of rumors about Sonos and Alexa coming. I shouldn't even say rumors. We've known that this was coming in some way, shape, or form for quite a while. So excited to finally see the announcement and know what this is going to look like. Looks like retail price on the Sonos One is going to be $199. As you mentioned, it will support Alexa right out of the gate. Also mentions that it will support Google Assistant with a software update in 2018. So that's a great deal for Google Home users as well. This is definitely really rounding out the category. It's a product that very much fits right in that price range. And obviously, Seth, you talked a lot last week about a whole bunch of new product from Amazon in the Echo family. And that's really a line of products that I think they had like 5 or 6 new Echo products come out last week. So really rounding out nicely. And I think this is a great announcement from Sonos. We'll be excited to see how this one does.
Yeah, they also talked a lot about their integrations. One of the interesting things that we heard and actually over here at CE Pro, they pulled it from the article, is that they admitted. Let me pull the quote here. At one point, the VP of Partners spoke about the openness of their APIs and made this comment: "We've always been a platform company, but we've never been very open." And then he went on to promise that Sonos was going to completely open up without elaborating much on that. And they also announced in their press release that they will open up the developer program and deliver APIs to any developer who wants to build a compelling customer experience on the Sonos Sound platform. So it sounds like that's going to be an interesting thing moving forward. They're going to have a works with Sonos badge, that you can put on your products, and after whatever you've made has been certified, I guess, through Sonos. And they're going to be starting off with here's a couple of names here: Lutron, iPort, Wink, Yonomi, and Eno. Actually, in our show notes here, Jason, I don't know, we don't have it on here, but I'm going to move it over so you can see it. I do have a link to that iPort product. It's called the iPort Express, and it's a little one, two, three, four, 5 button keypad that's a Wi-Fi keypad, tactile, that works with
Thank you.
Sonos. And for it's $99. So not a terrible, very terrible price point for it. It looks good. It's made by iPort, so we know it probably works really well. I think this could be a pretty cool product for them.
Love it. Me and Tactile. I appreciate you bringing that one in last second. Yeah, this is it is an interesting aspect to the story. Sonos that's always been a bit of a pain point with the home technology professional in particular, an inability to really integrate their platform with anything, and so it does look like they're aiming to address that. We'll see how much they can execute on it, but the CE Pro story that I'm looking at here had a screen capture of one of the slides and featured about 20 companies, what they said. This is when they were talking about their open API. A couple of bigger ones on there: Logitech, URC, Control4, Somfy. So some fairly big names there in home technology and home automation, and hopefully
HDL is on there as well. I know that's great news for our friends overseas, and I didn't. That was one of the booths I wanted to check out here at CEDIA and didn't get a chance to see what they were up to. But I know Chris Gamble over in the UK is going to be really happy to see HDL get some deeper integrations with Sonos.
Yep, absolutely. And one other smaller announcement, but worth noting here, it wasn't too long ago that Sonos announced the ability to control their product directly through the Spotify app. It looks like they are now going to be adding Pandora, Tidal, iHeartRadio, and then a couple audio and Kuko, Kuko. I'm not familiar with that one, but in any event, a handful more of third-party music apps that you'll be able to, right from within the app, do control of Sonos, which is kind of nice. So big day for Sonos, and I think pretty exciting stuff.
With all these integrations here, especially with Amazon Alexa and Google Assistant coming in 2018, I think we have the makings of a hub, Jason. Like this is my hand's hovering over the bell because I don't want to do it until they act. I don't know. I should.
Can you give it like a muted?
Yeah, let's. There
you go.
There you go. Yeah, just like a thud.
Palm mute. That's right.
Yeah. There we go. So yeah, I don't know if I want to fully ring it until we see what exactly this the Google Assistant one looks like, I guess. But I mean, definitely if you have Amazon Alexa built in, anything that, has a, Amazon Alexa skill, you could control, right? I mean, that makes this kind of fall in line with what we've been calling a hub for a while. If we're giving an Amazon Echo the stamp of approval of being a hub, I think this has got to get it too.
I agree with you. I know that I've heard anecdotally that a big thing for Amazon internally when they talk about Alexa is that Alexa is Alexa everywhere, and they're not big on limiting things, right? So if it's got Alexa in it, it's going to have the full capability of anything else that has Alexa in it, including the Echo. So I'm with you. It does look like this will officially bring Sonos into a more rounded out smart home hub type of a product, as opposed to just a streaming music solution. And it's been an interesting trajectory from Sonos. We've talked about that a number of times on the show. They really were the pioneer of their space in terms of the type of solution they brought to market when they first came around, and then that space really filled up and flooded with other products like the Echo, and then Google Home came along, and so there's an increasing amount of competition, and Sonos really needed to find a bit of a new identity or figure out what was their path forward, and this looks to be a major pivot for them. And so again, we'll see how it works out.
Yeah, talk about a major pivot. I mean, I'm kind of going back a little bit, and I can't remember exactly the guy's name, but I mean the CEO basically stepped down from Sonos over this pivot, right? I mean they said
right,
this has hit us blindsided, and now we're seeing Sonos, I think, catch up. I mean we'll kind of talk about this later on, I guess, but like it really feels like this is a catch up moment for Sonos, which has been taking the lead, but has been really missing out on some of the more advanced features I think people really, really wanted to have in their homes that totally could have been within what they were developing. But I think they I mean, I'm sure every integrator out there would agree that Sonos has just kind of sat on their product and sat on their laurels for so many years that, and didn't really take, updating the product seriously. I mean, we haven't seen a major update since maybe the Play Bar, which has been a while, So I'm glad to see them finally play this catch-up game, really talk about integrating with Sonos. That's exciting right there. And really, get involved with these bigger platforms that have come into fruition since they've been around and selling their products like Amazon and Google Home. So really be excited to see what this does moving forward. It sounds like most everything comes out next year, though, unfortunately. So hopefully we'll have a good year in 2018 for Sonos. I'm super excited about AirPlay, so I'll just say that.
That would have been enough for you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Had they just come out.
It actually would have been.
Had they just come out and said, just for Seth Johnson at HomeTech, we are going to support AirPlay 2. That's the end.
Mic drop, done. It would have worked. It would have worked. I would have been all over that. So what's crazy about this all is today, that was like Sonos was in the morning, and then a couple of, not even an hour after their keynote stopped, Google started their Made by Google keynote, which was really good because we got to see some new Made by Google products and hear Google talk a little bit more about what they've been doing. They of course the big, I think everything that what everybody's going to be talking about outside of the home technology crowd is they announced new phones, right? Like they have the new Pixel phones, which are Google's in-house phones made by Google. Now that they have the HTC people, I guess it's even more so made by Google. They have these really cool new earbuds, Jason, that like if you're going overseas, you can wear these earbuds, right? And they will sync with your Google phone. And if you can have like a direct conversation with somebody in a different language, and when you speak, your phone will announce what you said in their language, and then when you speak back, you will hear the translation of what they're speaking.
Oh wow!
They showed this on stage. It was really cool. Like it was a really cool demo. So hopefully that gets some more traction outside of Google and makes its way over to other platforms, because I thought that was really cool.
Yeah, that's neat.
And one notable stat they put up right at the beginning was that they had sold over 55 million Chromecasts, the little Google video type dongle things that people plug into the back of their TVs and Chromecast audio devices. 55 million. That's a huge number.
That is a big number, and not surprising. They came out with that at such an insanely low price point that you knew it was going to be popular. But that is impressive. Getting on to some of the bigger, more direct stories here, the Home Mini. So a couple of new Google Home products it was really the big sort of headline grabbing stories from a home technology perspective. Again, if you're less concerned with smartphones and such, Home Mini really designed to take on the Echo Dot directly. This is a very small, I see here, quote, smaller than a donut. Size reference there. They
had a picture of a donut they put up on the screen.
So that'll give you an idea if you're trying to picture this in your mind's eye. $49 for pre-order. Looks like available in a couple of weeks. Comes in a few different colors. Does the same things that the Google Home does, effectively, wirelessly connecting to Chromecast audio. Of course, the Google Assistant, all of that. Controlled by touch on like a transparent fabric on the top. So you get a little bit of tactile control, presumably to do very basic functions like pause music or maybe turn up the volume, something like that. So again, really rounding out the product line. A nice product if you're already a Google Home owner and you want to supplement your system, maybe get some corners of the house or some bedrooms to get that same functionality in there without breaking the bank. So it looks like a nice addition to the product lineup.
Yep. And Jason, they've taken, this is kind of like the third product, I guess, this month or so that has announced with these fabric type coverings, right? And I used to think those, I mean, it's definitely not like the same as as you know, I'm sitting here looking at some monitor speakers that I have on my desk, and they're just like this hard plastic shell casing around. They wouldn't fit inside my house very well, and I can see that they're going for like the interior design of a home. Like this would look good in the living room. It would look good on the nightstand, that kind of thing. But I look at that fabric now that I have a child, and I think, man, what are the grubby little fingerprints going to look like on this?
Yeah.
It's just a completely different view, I got to say.
Yeah, no, that's funny. It's funny what having a child will do to your perspective on industrial design.
It's just macaroni and cheese mashed right into that, right?
Never getting that out of there.
Nope, not at all.
It gives it character, though.
It would have some character. Well,
right.
They also announced a bigger speaker called the Home Max, which, if you kind of take a step back and look at this sideways, it looks almost exactly like the Sonos Play 5. And if you look at some of the specs they have along with it, it looks almost like the Apple AirPod, or what is it called, HomePod, that hasn't been released yet, that we still really don't know what does yet. This thing is huge. It's about a 12-pound device. It works vertically or horizontally, just like the Sonos Play 5. Comes in white or gray color. Has that nice little cloth on the front. Has big subwoofers or woofers that can really move some air and put some bass into the room. It will support all of the YouTube music, Spotify, Bluetooth, all that good stuff, and costs $399. We'll start shipping later here in December. Come fully available in December. I think the pre-orders start in November. But also has the Google Assistant built into it, and I guess what I was alluding to earlier with the HomePod. Man, that's hard to say. HomePod device. They have the smart sound built into it, where wherever you place the speaker in the room, it has a kind of an audio feedback loop into it, and we'll figure out what's the best way that the speaker can sound in that particular location in the room. And also another thing that they put on there, which was context, which I didn't hear Apple talk about this, and I think this kind of needs to be highlighted for Google. If it's early in the morning and you turn this thing on, it doesn't blast. Like, it starts off at a lower volume. Or if you put on like classical music, it's not going to start blasting, versus if you put on, Kendrick Lamar. I mean, it's going to be two different things, right? So the volume will actually adjust based on the music that you're listening to or the time of day, which is very, very smart. I didn't hear Apple talk about that at all when they introduced the HomePod. So it's good to see Google kind of getting out in front of whatever Apple is going to release and putting out a really compelling product at $399.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think what you're really seeing here is the maturation of this smart speaker category. You've got companies like Google Home came out with Google, when they came out with the Google Home, had their one product, and Echo Amazon had their one product when they came out with the Echo, and they're now both moving up and down market and giving you more options. And Sonos, of course, has always had their different Sonos Play 1, Play 3, Play 5, but they're now adding in the smarts and the intelligence. And so really this the smart speaker category, as anybody following the space would have easily predicted, is continuing to gain momentum and really blossom as a great category. There's a ton of great options now if you're interested in getting that functionality into your home, and I love it. I think these are really useful, fun products. I know we get a lot of use out of our just simple Echo up in the kitchen, and when we're looking to upgrade and get something with a little better audio quality, we'll have plenty of options. So I think it's fantastic. But let's we've got a ton of ground here to cover still. So let's go ahead.
Let's talk about price on this stuff. The Sonos device comes out at $199. The nearest Amazon is the Amazon Echo Plus, right? So that's kind of the same thing plus Zigbee at $150. So a $50 premium for the Sonos product. And then HomePod, I think that's coming out at $349. So $50 less than the Google Max, Home Max. What is I think the Sonos Play 5, if I'm remembering correctly, I have to look it up real quick, but I think that is a $499 product. So man, you have at pretty much any price point that you want to get into a pretty compelling product to buy, right? Like I think Sonos has done a pretty good job of positioning themselves. Of course, it's premium for over the last couple of years, but also not adding on to the price of the Play One, introducing this Sonos One device. Like this at $199. Yeah, you're missing the Zigbee portion of having Amazon Hub in your house, but I think that you're really not for $50. You're getting a Sonos out of it, right? Like we've kind of sung their praises over the years. Like you get so many of these tons of music services built into it, where you don't have to worry about streaming music from your phone and it getting interrupted when a phone call comes in, that kind of thing. Like I think for $50 more, I'd probably be more compelled to hold out and buy the Sonos. What do you think?
Yeah, it really, I agree with you. It really is going to depend, particularly if you're comparing those two products. I thought the Echo Plus, the inclusion of Zigbee into the Echo Plus was a really interesting story. And if you were a casual technology fan watching the Echo event, that may have caught your attention a little bit or slipped under your radar completely. But to me, that was a big deal. I think it was indicative of Amazon's commitment to continue pushing forward into the smart home. So if you're a Zigbee user of any sort, if you have that technology in your home and you want to be able to do straight device to device communication as opposed to going out to the cloud, you may prioritize that. If you're looking for the Sonos experience, I would, obviously not having heard the Sonos One, I'm speculating, but would assume it's going to have a better audio quality than the Echo Plus. But to your point, Seth, it's really, I think, great for home technology fans to see this category rounding out the way that it has. And whether you're into really broad integration sets where you can integrate with a bunch of different smart home technology, or if you want to sort of prioritize the high quality audio experience, and no matter which price point you're at now, you've got options to do that. And so I think it's right. I think it's great.
Yeah, in the Play 5, I was right. It's $499 for that. So that's the highest end product for the Play 5. Then you step down and you go to $399 for the Google Home Max, which is pretty much on par with the Play 5. So I'd kind of have a hard time buying a Play 5 anymore. And then you have Apple, oddly enough, being at the bottom of the list here at $349. I think Apple and Apple's HomePod, which does things that we don't know what it will do yet, and the Google Home Max are going to compete directly at $349 and $399. I think those two products are going to be, they're on par with everything that was announced. Google basically took every single bullet point that Apple made at the Apple keynote, kind of put their spin on it, made it look better, that kind of thing. I think they did everything they could to make this product compelling, as something that you would want to go out and buy if you were, in the Google Home ecosystem and had no desire to buy an Apple product. But you are paying $50 more than an Apple product, which is kind of a weird place for Googlers to be in, right? Like usually the Android products are less expensive.
Right. Yeah, it is interesting. A lot of facets to that, and I have to imagine, dovetailing off that a little bit, that Apple, may not be right away. They may not rush to do it, but you've got to imagine with this category shaping out the way that it is, that they're going to be looking for I would think a cheaper, more entry level option at some point. Now, Apple's not the kind of company that's going to engage in a race to the bottom, and they're not going to rush to do it, but you've got to imagine that they'll have to start hitting those different price points as everyone else now in the space is doing that. So it'll be really fascinating, I think, over the end of 2017 and throughout 2018 to watch how that smart speaker space continues to evolve and how people continue to adopt and use the different platforms.
Yep. Well, speaking of a race to bottom and price points, this last week we had Ring announce a new security system, which was crazy. Like just a couple weeks ago, we had Nest announce a security system. I think in between here and there, we had Best Buy slash ADT announced that they're going to be selling some kind of DIY based security system.
Yep.
And now Ring all come in like within weeks of each other and announce that they're going to be doing these DIY security systems.
Yeah, it's crazy the evolution that's happening in that space as well. And to your point, a couple of them this week. We'll talk a little about both of them here. Ring, we're going to hit first. I think this one is arguably a bigger story for a reason that we'll get to here in just a quick second. The quick bullet points on it, it's the Ring Protect. It was just announced this week. It's of course a DIY system like everything from Ring, or pretty much everything from Ring. Brings together a bunch of different products in their in their catalog. Bundle starts at $199, so $199, includes a base station keypad, contact sensor, a motion detector, and a range extender. Designed, of course, to work with Ring video doorbells and security cameras. And then we get to the big one. And this one I Seth, totally did a double take on when I read this. $10 per month for cloud video storage and unlimited devices. Plus, and this is the big one, 24/7 professional monitoring and cellular backup at $10 a month. That is a game changer in the world of security. That is a big, big story. And I was shocked to see it at such a low price point.
Yeah, $100 a year, $10 a month. I think if you compare this to if you even compare this to what Google was offering with their Nest, I think they were getting in the 40s to 50s, $50 range, $35 to $45, I want to say, and somewhere in there.
Yep.
For comparable monitoring per month. And that is nowhere near $10 per month. I mean, they are bringing this down to rock bottom prices. I know what wholesale prices are for monitoring, and in doing interactive monitoring like this, you'd be hard pressed to do this wholesale. I mean, this is below wholesale. So, yeah. Man, this is going to cause some disruption in the monitoring market, I think, especially if it starts to take off and the system is good. I think you're going to see a lot. I mean, you're going $40, at least $40 a month for in savings. I mean, that's huge.
Yeah, it's a big story. Anthony in the chat room was pointing out Lowe's Iris does monitoring for $15 a month.
Does that include video though?
Yeah, that's a good question, obviously. And what's crazy is that we're getting to such low prices that even that $5 a month difference is a 50% increase over the $10 a month that Ring is doing. So really getting down to rock bottom prices here. Seth, to your credit, 2 weeks ago we talked about Nest and their security system that they were bringing to market, and you astutely pointed out that there was nothing really earth-shaking about their pricing model when it comes to professional monitoring. And I don't remember right off the top of my head what that number was, but I want to say it was in that $30 to $40 range. And so this is the the big part of the story to me. Will be available for purchase. Looks like let me see here. The Ring Protect bundle is it's available for pre-order starting now. Looks like shipping November is what they're saying on their website. And then it does say available for purchase in Home Depot and Best Buy physical locations in late October. So coming very soon. And, me, Seth, looking at this story from a personal perspective, my wife and I have been talking about these systems, and even looking at a system like Simply Safe. It's a significant price difference. So I think we'll definitely have some homework to do here.
Yeah, I kind of went through the same thing that you were going through a couple months back, and ended up doing some kind. There's a company called Surety DIY online, and I mean, it basically provides me with an alarm.com account that I can do my own, and like a professional monitoring on the back end of it. But it's all done online, and I just filled out a couple forms to see how easy it was. Super easy. Didn't have to worry about it. And I want to say that cost me around $25 a month. And I'm using essentially the same panel that they're offering through the ADT, the 2 gig panel that they're offering through the ADT deal that we'll talk about here in a second. But I'm just blown away by this. Like I already actually have that $100 per year cloud account from Ring. So, I mean, essentially, I would be able to add in professional monitoring for this for the same price of the security system for $199. Crazy to think
deal.
about. I'm just kind of blown away. Yeah.
So you alluded to it there a couple of times at the outset. ADT as well had a story break this week, and earlier in the week was reading about this one, and it looks like a new 2 gig based security panel. Incidentally, I think the press release didn't specify that it was 2 gig, but anybody who knows that stuff looked at it and said, it's definitely
looks like
2 gig. But that's
Yeah.
worth pointing out. It's a security panel with SmartThings Home Automation Hub built into it, which is really interesting. We can talk about some of the specs and radios and stuff that it's got included in there. No contract monitoring by ADT, so a month-to-month type of deal. The monitoring is optional. So, of course, the other option there would be to self-monitor, which is getting to be a lot more popular amongst these sort of offerings. Looks like pricing for the professional monitoring option, I think the story said maxes out at $35 per month. I don't know exactly where that starts out at, but you can even see, going back to the Ring story, that's a threefold increase, and so that is a very disruptive pricing model. But all the same, this does look like an interesting offering. And one thing worth pointing out, not UL rated, but I guess ETL listed. And Seth, you've got a more heavy background in security monitoring than I do, and so I'm not sure if you're familiar with that. But an offering like the Ring system, for example, is probably not UL listed. I don't know, but that may come into play if you're looking to get maybe a break on like your homeowner's insurance or something like that.
Yeah.
So not sure, but that is something worth considering when you're starting to compare those monthly monitoring options.
Right. I know those listings are hard to come by, and that is where you kind of get those breaks. But man, I'm looking at this and thinking, like, how long is that going to last? Like, what's it going to take for a company like Nest or Ring, after this takes off and they prove a business case, for them to get a UL listed monitoring system and put it out there? Like, what does it matter to them if they're selling thousands of these things off the shelf every week? What's it matter to them to get that UL certification? I think it's kind of a low bar to set. Like, oh, that's the only thing preventing you to get this. Man, I think really the only thing I needed was peace of mind that my house wasn't being burglared or is on fire.
Burglarized,
like yeah, burglarized, yeah. That I really didn't need anything else. So. Mm-hmm. I think for the peace of mind, I'll take that peace of mind for $10 a month for sure over the other prices.
Right. So anyways, a couple of big stories there, and really crazy with the timing, and Nest coming out with their system recently. So we'll keep an eye on that space and see how it continues to develop. Going to shift gears here and move to a couple of streaming video stories that we wanted to hit really quickly. First one, Amazon slashing prices on 4K content. And actually, I'll just go ahead and lead with it both. Google did the same thing, and we'll talk about some of the details here, but really interesting because when Apple announced the 4K Apple TV, one of the big stories to come out of that, if you were really paying attention and reading between the lines to a certain extent, was their decision to really reduce pricing on 4K content relative to what other people in the market were doing. And so Apple came out and said, okay, we're gonna make 4K movies on the iTunes store the same price as HD content, which starts around $20. Previously purchased HD movies will be upgraded to 4K for free as those titles become available. And those were two really big announcements for anybody paying attention to that 4K content space. Well, it turns out that it didn't take long for other companies to react and follow suit, which is something that I definitely would have predicted would happen, and I think is great for the consumer. So Amazon has slashed their prices. They'll now have titles starting at $5. Newer releases in the range of $7 to $19 is what this is reporting. This story from The Verge does report that Amazon's 4K selection is limited in comparison to Apple's. I haven't done that comparison myself, so I don't know to what extent. But prior to this announcement, they were at $30 for starting at $30 for 4K content. So big price drop for them.
Good for Apple. I mean, we give them hell for some of the things they do, but man, they really go to bat for the consumer sometimes, and they have some serious weight they can throw around, especially when it comes to the music industry, which they kind of own, and and Hollywood now, which kind of has been protesting for years about dealing with Apple directly, but I think they're finally coming around to making it work, and I think they're going to find, all of these companies that make it hard to get their content. All that does is make piracy more rampant with their products. I mean,
right?
It doesn't make any sense. Like, just make it easy to buy, make it easy to get, and I think that's proven over and over and over again. Like, that's all people really want. No, you're not gonna stop broke college kids from pirating, a couple movies here and there, but who cares? If get them addicted to your product.
They're going to do it anyways.
Yeah, get them addicted to their product, and when they grow up and they have a couple extra dollars to throw, they'll start buying movies. And it's essentially, what I did with music is I didn't buy music for years, and then when I started getting some income in, some of that went to music, and built up my community. I already had like plenty of things off of the old sites like Napster and all that good stuff, but now I just pay for the streaming services and deal with music that way. And I think that's kind of how I think the movie industry needs to go. Hopefully it needs to go.
Yeah,
we'll start seeing them kind of get in line and maybe do like a streaming thing for some of these older movies, because, even at $20, if I get a 4K copy of, I don't know, Meet the Fockers or something, like, who cares? Like, why is that called $20?
Yeah.
So yeah, I'd rather see like, it would be really nice if Apple could negotiate some kind of streaming service for movies, where you could watch some of these movies that they have in their catalog. They're not pressing discs or anything, right? They're just streaming them over the internet. Like, there's a fixed cost to that for sure. It'd be nice for them to come out with some kind of streaming service that you could do. I hope that's in the works. Yeah.
Well, you gotta imagine it. It will be sooner or later. You never know. But Seth, you had mentioned that you did hear from a friend about Google's response as well, and I actually quickly had dug up a story from Engadget that did manage to fly under my radar. So I'm glad you brought it up. But it's definitely true. Google did do the same thing. Looks like just earlier this week, dropping their price down to $20 as well. So basically a direct match to Apple. So really interesting to me that it was so quick. The response was really so immediate. It indicates to me that these companies do see that as a big deal, and I think that's a good thing. Google, this story from Engadget was really short, very, very brief, bullet points basically of what was going on, but a representative sort of downplayed that it was a direct response to Apple. The quote here, we always look to offer consumers competitive pricing on Google Play and have been working closely with our studio partners to do so. So that was sort of in response to, I think, a question either direct or indirect about whether this was a response to Apple and Amazon leading the way here. But all in all,
do you think it was like the response was, hey, Apple just announced this deal and we don't have it. We want that deal.
Yeah. Yeah, there's no doubt. So really great for consumers. It's still not a small chunk of change to shell out for a movie, like you said. $20 to buy a copy, especially if you're like me. I very rarely watch a movie more than once or maybe twice personally. So I've never been a big movie purchaser myself. And so, like you said, a streaming service would be great. But speaking of streaming services, that's an area that we've been following really closely all year. It really has been one of my big top picks for top sort of broad categories and stories for the year. Comcast has officially launched their own streaming TV service. This is something that we have teased or heard rumors about for a few months now. Was previously known as Xfinity Stream. This was an offering they had in select markets. It's been rebranded as Xfinity Instant TV, and a little bit of a, I don't know, halfway solution to streaming, I would say. This is not a direct competitor to something like a Sling TV or a PlayStation Vue, for instance, mainly for the reason that it is only available to Comcast broadband users. So I think more of an offering for Comcast to hopefully stop the bleeding is probably what they're hoping for here. And if you're a Comcast broadband user and you're thinking about cutting the cord, prior to this, you were going to be leaving Comcast, and other than maybe for your internet. And this is a way for them to at least keep some of that revenue in the fold for what I would say is a fairly limited offering. I haven't dug into all the details, but $18 a month gets you roughly a dozen channels is what this story said. And there are, of course, tiers above that where you can get more. But those are the bullet points. And I think, like I said, pretty much a response to trends in the market, cutting the cord and all of that's been going on for quite a while. And Comcast looked at it and said, we got to do something. So there you have it.
Yeah, I'm looking at this going, man, I would say $20 a month. If it was half of that, I would probably do it. Just to kind of get away from the antenna kind of thing, right? Because I'm using the antenna now. If something weather event happens in between here at my house and wherever the antenna is, sometimes it kind of drops out here and there. I don't know why, but I don't, where I am, I don't have the best signal for the antenna. So I mean, like if it was $10 a month, and it had an Apple TV app, I'd probably say, yeah, this, especially with the cloud DVR feature, like I'd probably say that would work. 18, I don't know. It's just more than I want to give Comcast, right? Because I'm sure it's 18 per month.
I'm surprised you'd give them anything.
Yeah, 18 per month, and I'm sure there's like another $40 in taxes that get added on top of it that they don't tell you about because they're cool like that. So yeah,
gotta love them.
Yep,
gotta love them. Yep. So that's the offering. Let's move on here to the next group of stories. We're going to wind down our episode here with a couple of stories about IKEA here. Actually, a bit of I would say kind of a scathing write up on the Trod-free line of smart lighting that comes from The Verge. And Seth, you pulled out a quote here. Trod-free works perfectly if you set it up once and never touch it again. And that I think pretty much says it all. What this piece is about. It's titled "IKEA's Smart Lights Are as Stylish and Breakable as its Furniture." And I don't know. I haven't read a ton of reviews about these things, and I certainly haven't used them myself. But I think probably what you're seeing here is the same pain points that pretty much everybody who buys new smart home technology is going to go through, and it's some of those bumps and bruises that IKEA is presumably and hopefully working hard to iron out on the back end.
Yeah, I mean, just reading through the article, it seemed like the most of the problems that he was having were software related, which could be hopefully solved with software updates of both the app and probably the software, the firmware that's on the devices. One of the pull quotes here was let's see. Every time he'd open up the app, the Trod-free app, it would disconnect from his system. And to reconnect, he'd have to pull up the hub from under the TV scan the QR code on the bottom, and basically reset up the whole thing. He tested on both iOS and Android and had system happen on both platforms. So either he's got a bad, buggy system, or there's something wrong with the software on the app. Not sure which, but definitely this kind of thing as you can see here in this article. I wouldn't say this is a small bug, but any bugs presented in front of an end user. I mean, you and I are used to this, right? Like people calling up, my remote doesn't work, and like 10 minutes talking them down off the phone, and you find out they just got back from vacation and the batteries are dead, and they didn't bother checking to see if they had new batteries in it.
That never happens, Seth.
Oh yeah. Yeah, it never happens. But yep, I totally get where this guy's coming from. Just from my experience there in the industry of dealing with end users who maybe, are technical but don't really have time to deal with these bugs and things that come up. They really shouldn't. People don't expect to beta test things in their homes, and they want a working product that works as well as the analog equivalent, right? They want a light switch that works like a light switch, and we got to figure out as an industry how to give them that.
That's right. That's right. Greg, I got a little bit of a laugh out of this in the chat room. Greg says, IKEA, Swedish for made in China. That's pretty funny. Again, to me, this is all very, very typical stuff, but and probably for most people listening to the show, none of this comes as a surprise. Being either a professional or a smart home enthusiast, or anybody with any measure of direct experience in the smart home, you come into it expecting this stuff. And I'm not saying that's good or bad or right or wrong, but it is the nature of the smart home right now, and hopefully someday it'll get better. But I'm skeptical that it ever will. I think there's too many moving parts here, and these companies really do need to work as hard as they can to make things as stable as possible. But it's never going to be perfect, and particularly when you get into a new product line and something as at low of a price point as this thing is. It's not a complete condemnation of the quality and the overall experience that you're going to get out of it at some point, but you've got to kind of come into it eyes wide open, in my opinion. But speaking of IKEA, they do now have a colored light, so an RGB light. This was, it should mention here, don't want to bury the lead, HomeKit compatible. So there was some talk about HomeKit on the Trod-free system back in May, and they pushed the update in August. So just recently that added that support. But up until just recently, they were only white. So when IKEA came out of the gate, they didn't have the color changing functionality like a Philips Hue, but they do now. So these have been, according to, we found a 9to5 Mac story here, but it looks like they link out to The Verge, and it says these have been, quote, sneaking into stores around the world last month, and now they're on the IKEA website.
That's pretty cool.
Actually, yeah, on the IKEA website, where spot check of its physical stores shows stock across the U.S. Confusingly, it says they aren't available to purchase online, but listed as $34.99 a bundle. So I'm not sure where you buy these, if you get them online or you got to go to the store. But in any event, they do now have a color changing light, which I think a lot of people shopping for this sort of product that's going to resonate with them.
Yeah, I have one of these IKEA chandelier things. It's like this big. We've had it for a while. I think we paid $20 for it or something. It's this massive, giant globe chandelier thing that's basically all plastic. And I've been thinking about getting one of these Philips Hue, basically, to go in there, because the way it lights up, it's not like a chandelier. Chandeliers are just decorative, right? They add light to the room, and this kind of glows. So when you turn it on, it kind of glows. And if I had a Philips Hue, I could change the color. So I was thinking before Halloween, I should grab one of these Philips Hues and stick it in there and turn it orange for Halloween. Maybe put pumpkin eyes on it or something.
There you go.
Yeah, it seems kind of fun. But
get a little festive.
Yeah, get a little festive. I think this is. I think either one would be a good idea. $39. I think when I was looking at the Philips, they were more expensive than that. I want to say they were $70, but maybe that's just because you need kits and stuff for them. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I this looks like a pretty good buy for $39. Pretty exciting. Another thing, I guess Philips was actually adding HomeKit as well. So it's another story we'll link to over in our show notes at HomeTech.fm/181. A couple of people in our Slack channel, I think today, were asking, you texted me on this, and I came back and put in the link to this place, but they were asking around, where is a place that I can go to figure out what actually works with HomeKit? And HomeKitty, and that's not the cat we hear in the back of Jason's audio right now. That's actually a website that somebody came up with, that they have kind of painstakingly gone through and figured out where all the HomeKit devices are. If somebody announced that they were going to be doing HomeKit, they have these products on there with a little icon that says it's coming soon. If you go into this, it's all broken down by, if I click on, let's see, fans, I can see that the Symphony 54-inch ceiling fan here, and I click on it, it'll bring me straight to Hunter Fan's website where I can buy that. Works with Apple HomeKit. This is a pretty cool website. It's HomeKitty.world, which is a new domain name thing. I've never seen that before. But HomeKitty.world.
HomeKitty.com was taken. I actually just checked.
Oh, really?
It's HomeKitty.com looks like a pretty...
It's a risky click, Jason.
You're right.
Not going there.
That was risky.
Yeah. So go check out this site if you are trying to figure out what works with HomeKit. This is a pretty good one there, and I see that the Philips Hue stuff's already on there. They've already got them listed. So cool.
Yeah. No, it's a good deal for Philips Hue users. The Hue Tap Hue dimmer switch and motion sensor looks like compatible with HomeKit. So you'll be able to use those switches to control other HomeKit compatible devices. So pretty neat story. And that wraps up really everything we had. Really busy week. A lot of big stories broke in the smart home. And so for anybody who's a fan of this stuff, this was a great week, a great way to start off October and hopefully a sign of a great end of the year coming up.
Yep. Sounds like the HomeKitty is getting active again.
Yeah, he's interested in seeing that website I just pulled up.
Still not going there.
I know some people listening will. It's harmless.
All right. Safe for work.
Yeah, safe definitely. All right, Seth. Well, I guess with that we will wrap it up. I appreciate you holding down the fort last week for me, and once again want to thank everybody who has become a patron of the show. If you're interested in supporting our efforts here, I'll give that URL out one more time. That is HomeTech.fm/support. So thank you again.
Yep. Thanks again. And Jason, I'll talk to you next week.
All right. Sounds good. Thanks, Seth.